Okay, this is my Catch 120 Pelican kayak I purchased a few years ago. I'm done modifying it for now. A few things I've done is, first of all, I put a battery in the front compartment here. I put spray foam down along the hull, and I put a piece of 2x10 in there, the same size as the battery, so that way the foam would take shape around the battery. And I also, before I sprayed the foam, I put a bike strap in the foam so it kind of locks the battery down. That's one thing. Another thing I did was I lengthened the stand-up strap so it's just easier to use now. I mounted my Garmin 4 fish finder. Put it through the kayak hull, the wires, try to keep it waterproof as much as possible. The transducer, I had it inside the kayak for a while, but I don't get a good water temperature reading, and the water runs out of the sponge that the transducer sits in. So I came up with this little contraption here. All it is a hinge. I kind of put some bends into it. I use some waterproof rivets, so when I'm ready to go fishing, I can get the kayak in the water and just let that flop down. Another thing I did was I do a lot of night fishing, so I installed this toggle switch here, ran the wires through the hull up to the battery, and I installed an LED on the side and also another one underneath the seat, because usually that's where I keep a couple of my tackle boxes with my stuff in it. So another thing I did was I added a rod holder, and also this oar grip kind of locks it into place, so instead of letting it balance on the boat and losing it and everything else. This right here is control for a trolling motor that I mounted. Just a small trolling motor, 17-pound thrust. Again, I ran all the wires through the hull. I put a plug on each one on the control so I can unplug it, and when I don't want to use it. I put this little 4-inch hatch, dry hatch, wallet, keys, camera, phone, whatnot. Another thing I did, probably the biggest modification, was adding the trolling motor. I just took a little 17-pound Minn Kota. I cut a piece of aluminum sheet metal, mounted it on the back with rivets, welded the tubing to it, put some gussets in for strength. I took a trailer plug, male and female, connected up the wires, so when I don't want to use it, I can just disconnect it and take it off. I used a shifting cable out of an old dump truck to steer it. It's a little crude, but it works. It works pretty well, actually. I got about 110 degrees of mobility on it, or range. So that's that. Oh, another thing I did was I took a battery charger clamp, put a rope on it, about 8 feet of line so I can hook onto brush, lily pads, keep me in the same spot. Another thing I did was I added a Yak Attack anchor system. But like in another video I showed you, I had to put a piece of AZEK there just to bump the locking mechanism out so you could actually use it. And I wound the rope around the oar hole down. So I added this hatch as well. I'll probably keep my Nikon camera in there. A lot of times I see some beautiful things and don't catch anything, so maybe I'll catch some good photos instead. Oh, the other thing I did was, it's kind of crude, but I think it'll do the trick. This little device right here is a bike cable, and what that does, the bike cable is connected to the trolling motor, and it picks it up about 4 inches, just enough to get the motor as high as the bottom of the hull of the kayak, so when I come into shore the motor's not dragging. So that works pretty good. So, and that's that. That's the modifications I've done. Now all I got to do is clean it up and put it outside in the garage and wait for the warm weather. Thanks a lot.